Alright, testing. I'm not sure that this is working. Alright, testing. Never mind. It's working. Alright. Good. It's actually working. Hey, no, you're second, dude. No, not really. What's up, TechSimpler Studios and Insane Fire 10. I'm gonna just sit for 1 minute before really saying anything. The PC user finally. First of all, apologies if my mic doesn't sound that great. Hang on. Do you all hear me, first of all? 10. I'm gonna just sit for 1 minute before really saying anything. It's been good. How are you, DV in the house, man? I'm not sure if my audio is clipping either. Hear me, first of all? 10. I'm gonna just sit for... I think my audio is fine. Anyways, I've been good. How are y'all? This is kind of just a test... kind of a test stream, really. And just a way to kind of get myself back into being... Okay, so if my audio is clipping, I actually have a solution. There we go. Shouldn't be clipping now. It's gonna be a little quieter, but that's okay. And yeah, it's good. Let's turn on all my live chat here. I like it how, so first of all, I'm still using Streamlabs. I'm not sure that's the streaming software that's recommended anymore. And, I'm gonna take my AirPods out. I think I just speak better with them on. I'm not sure their Streamlabs is still the recommended streaming software in 2023. I think people nowadays might actually recommend regular OBS. I know there was this huge thing that I forget what happened with Streamlabs, either last year or in 2021, that just basically there was something really there was something really shady going on with Streamlabs. So I forget exactly what happened though. But if I just want to update regular OBS, I have to close Streamlabs. Interesting. Really, DV in the Houseman? How do most people pronounce it? Is it like Devin the Houseman? Devin the Houseman? Did I private the last stream? Yeah, I forget why. I think I had a reason. But yeah, long story short, I did private the last stream, if you're talking about the one where I was driving a car to the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, because that was the last stream I did, which was in July, so it's been September, October, November, December, January, 7 months already? Interesting. Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've done anything on YouTube. So I feel like, first of all, the stream tonight, there's going to be several things. The first, I do feel I owe you guys an explanation on why I ultimately pretty much stopped posting to YouTube. I don't know if I mentioned this before. I did post something on Twitter like over a year ago that said I was done with YouTube. I feel like I do owe you guys an explanation. Long story short, I got bored of YouTube. That's it. That's literally the main reason that I stopped. I just simply got bored of doing YouTube, and that's why I stopped. I'm not saying that I would never post another YouTube video again. I mean, I'm streaming on YouTube right now, but I just simply got bored, and I stopped doing YouTube. It's as simple as that. Second thing is my personal life. My next main goal I would like to accomplish is, so I'm actually looking into buying a house. You might notice I'm still in the same office that I've been in pretty much the entire time that I posted YouTube videos, which is at my parents' house, and that's because I've spent pretty much all this time saving money and trying to actually purchase a property instead of renting some random property somewhere. And I will just say that I'm not going to say how much I saved or anything, but I'm at the point in my life where I'm actually going to start looking at buying something. So that'll be pretty cool. I'm not really too sure where to start, though, to be honest, because I know nothing about buying real estate. I kind of have an idea of what to do, but there are some people that I know that I want to talk to first, try to figure out like the actual process. I'll tell you guys what I want. I want a house in the same area that I live in now. It doesn't have to be the same town, but in the same like municipality. It doesn't have to be a single family house. But whatever place I wind up buying, whether it's like a townhouse or whatever, has to have a garage because I drive a Tesla. I do not want to park that car out in a random parking lot somewhere, and I do not want to sell my car. Yeah, now it might sound a little weird that I drive a Tesla when I stated my goal was to save money, but I do drive a Tesla. Will I do content after buying the new house? Maybe. We'll see. So yeah, that's something I want to do. I want to look at houses. I do work full time. Long story short, I work for, I'm not going to say the exact company, but I basically do like IT, like end user support, and mainly IT end user support at the current moment. Not like help desk, but actually physically like setting up computers, imaging computers, of supporting other things like supporting phones, like administrating computers like Windows devices and Macs and iPhones and stuff like that for a fairly large company, but I'm not going to name the specific. And it's been going really well there. I've been promoted twice, so for what it's worth. Yeah, it's so weird doing a stream. Like, I'm just not used to doing YouTube anymore. I'm not used to making content, and my confidence level for this has dropped quite a bit. The new YouTube guidelines, are you talking about the one where you can't swear within like the first 15 seconds of a YouTube video or something like that? Because if you're talking about that, I have heard that. I see I got 3 viewers, yay. Yeah, and you know, here's the thing, and I'm trying to figure out if it's just me. YouTube almost doesn't feel as culturally relevant as it did like pre-COVID. It's either YouTube is so big that there's no YouTube community anymore, or YouTube isn't as relevant because there are now social media platforms like TikTok. Like, I never really hear people saying things like, I want to be a YouTuber anymore. I just don't hear about it. And not only that, but YouTube has genuinely gone worse over the years. I feel like there was a lot of garbage content on YouTube in 2016, but I feel like that was actually the peak of YouTube, because there was also all this awesome, amazing kind of content. And really back then, I feel like there's really been like two waves of being a YouTube content creator, where it felt like being a YouTube content creator was really like aspirational. The first wave, I want to say, was around 2007 or 8, when YouTube was still really new and people realized by posting videos on YouTube they could get over 1 million views. The second wave was in like 2014 through 16, when people realized, oh hey, I can make all this money on YouTube by basically posting whatever I want. And so people did post whatever they want, and a lot of people made a lot of money on YouTube. And then I feel like starting in 2017 with the original Adpocalypse, I feel like that just dwindled away. And then after that, people started looking at other social media platforms for basically not even just making money, but YouTube was becoming more restrictive with its guidelines, and it just wasn't as fun anymore. And I feel like that's part of the reason why TikTok actually took off. It's because YouTube was kind of becoming worse. I'm not saying TikTok is great. It's not my favorite social media platform, but there are things that YouTube it's just gotten worse over the years. It's gone better at almost nothing. They have actually made good changes, like video chapters, where you can just, if you put like time codes in the video description or whatever, or you can just make it so you can just immediately, skip forward to a different part in the video, and you don't necessarily have to watch an entire creator's video if you're just there for one thing. That's cool. That's a change that I like. But at the same time, it's like YouTube has definitely gotten, they've tried to make their website, or service I should say, a lot more brand friendly. And it's at the same time, people have became more invested into making more professional style videos, because that tends to garner more views, which means homemade feeling YouTube videos they just don't get as many views, and it's not really as fun doing YouTube when it's like, oh, I can't just make a very homemade feeling YouTube and it'll actually become popular. So that kind of takes the fun out of it a little bit. And I don't know, YouTube is just not the same place as it was even in 2016. So I just don't enjoy YouTube. It doesn't feel like a place where you could actually become popular or make a lot of money or anything. It just really feels like a place where most content creators are already fairly established, and it's just a lot harder to do YouTube. Oh yeah, removing dislikes was a horrible idea. I have the Chrome extension installed that allows you to see dislikes, but from my understanding, that extension actually isn't fairly accurate, at least according to Linus Tech Tips. It's just not accurate. And I really wish they didn't get rid of dislikes. And it pisses me off too, because it's like, basically the entire YouTube community told YouTube that removing dislikes was a bad idea, that no one wanted it, and they did it anyways. And it's like, why? And my main theory, the reason they got rid of dislikes, is because big companies and advertisers complained about dislikes, and they didn't want any of the bad attention or bad publicity, so they basically just went to YouTube. They're like, listen, you gotta remove dislikes or we're not using your platform. And I think that's what YouTube wound up doing. You know something? I don't like Elon Musk nowadays. Like, I really don't. I think he's done great things with Tesla and SpaceX, but I think him purchasing Twitter was a mistake. But if there's one good thing about him is that he doesn't seem to bow down to the pressure from big advertisers and corporations as easily as a lot of other people do. And it really makes me wish he had the money to have just straight up bought YouTube off of Google. Because Twitter, like before Elon Musk, it wasn't really becoming worse. If anything, it had becoming better over like the last couple of years. YouTube, on the other hand, has been becoming worse and worse and worse. And I feel like Elon Musk, if he bought YouTube, he would have made YouTube better. Even though I don't like Elon Musk. Hello, sir. Your voice is very, very similar to Michael MJD, and I've gotten told this before. It does sound kind of similar. I've been told basically ever since I was like, 15, 16, whenever my voice dropped. I've been told, hey, your voice sounds like it's a good voice for radio, and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm not really interested in doing radio, but that's cool. And today I'm even less interested because it's like radio. Who listens to radio in 2023? Oh, you know something else that kind of pissed me off is I was trying to use my ancient Blue Yeti microphone here, but I plug it into my computer. I plug it into my computer, right, with this mini USB cable because I don't know why they chose to use mini USB considering that I bought this in 2016 and the world had pretty much moved on from mini USB and had moved to micro USB and USB Type-C was becoming a thing, but whatever. I plugged this into my computer, right, and the little light here above the mute switch had turned on, which signifies the microphone is on. But my computer didn't recognize a microphone, so I couldn't use it. And I'm sure of other mini USB cables, but I don't feel like digging around for them at the current moment. Kind of pisses me off though if this mic, which I have not had plugged into my computer for over a year now, it's gonna kind of piss me off if this actually somehow died. Which it's like a 7-year-old microphone, so it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't work anymore, but still, it's a good microphone when it actually worked. You somehow don't seem like you've aged since the last time I saw your face on the channel. I mean, I'm not like I'm that old, but I'm pretty sure I have aged. I don't think I'm aging poorly because I don't really have that many wrinkles yet, and my hair is still mostly dark, so I'm happy with that. But I think I have lost a little bit of hair, which annoys me a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm just going to, since this cable doesn't work anyways, I might as well put it away. Okay, so I'll tell you something though. I see you were attracted to your message, but I'm gonna kind of respond to it anyways. Muham Arif H2362. Yeah, so kind of annoys me that I never posted this. I actually did do a Windows 11 first impressions video a few days after the original beta, the original insider preview for Windows 11 first release, but I never edited it. Will I do more OS comparison videos? Possibly. I could do a Windows 10 versus Windows 11. Yeah, that'd be cool. You know, I kind of want to upgrade my computer though. I'm still using an i7-8700K with a GTX 1080 Ti, so very, very, very last, very 5 years ago specifications, and I don't feel like it's good enough anymore. I mean, it's fine, but I would like something better. So the plan is, I would like to get a Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 9, 77 or 7900X. And I would like to, I might wait until next month when new versions of those CPUs are released, but I would like to get a AMD Ryzen chip. And for my GPU, I'm a little less sold on. I'm not interested in the 4090 or the 4080 because they're so expensive, and I'm definitely not interested in the 4070 Ti because it's still kind of a ripoff for the price. And so I'd either want a new AMD like Radeon GPU, or I would have to go last gen and get an RTX 3090 or 3080 Ti, which I don't know about going last gen. I mean, last gen's GPUs were fine, but I still don't know if I want to go last gen. And then I would want 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. I feel like it's time for me to want to upgrade from 32 because I've been using 32 for 7 years now. And I would want to get fully modular power supply, and then I was interested in the Samsung 990 Pro, but apparently those drives have degradation issues, so I'm definitely not interested in that drive anymore. But I would like a new boot SSD that would get over, that would be faster than the 960 Pro that I have right now. I'd probably get an Asus motherboard. I'm not too sold on motherboard specific brands, but I've been fine with Asus. I'd want to get rid of all spinning drives from my system if possible. I tried doing this a few years ago and failed at it because I ran out of storage and decided I didn't want to spend additional money on an SSD. But I'd like to get a motherboard with built-in Wi-Fi instead of relying on a PCIe card, and built-in Bluetooth as well. And I'd like to get a new case with new fans. So I would literally be replacing my entire computer. So yeah, and I'd probably have to get a new cooling system. So yeah, I would be literally building an entirely new PC, and the only thing that I might carry over I have like a USB 3.0 like PCIe expansion slot that has USB-A ports. I might keep that, and I might keep, I think I'm gonna not import, but I think I'm gonna move a couple of SSDs over from my new system to, from my old system. And I think I'm gonna install Windows 11 Fresh, and unfortunately it's gonna be Windows. And yeah, it's gonna be quite the build. Anyways, yeah, I do miss 2010 YouTube. And yeah, I didn't really like Windows 8.1, but yeah, support is now over for Windows 8.1. It wasn't actually as bad as people say it was, but I still kind of stand by the conclusion I made in my was Windows 8 that bad video, where it actually wasn't too terrible, and that the only really bad thing about it was the start screen and the charms bar, and basically the entire Metro interface was horrible. Good for touchscreens, horrible for non-touch screens, or even if you're just using a 2-in-1 laptop with a keyboard. Nice, but if you just wanted Windows 8.1 made it so you could just boot to the desktop. If you just installed like Classic Shell or Stardate or a program like that, and there was also other programs that made you be able to run the Metro apps in their own Windows. Windows 8 wasn't too bad. Like the Task Manager, the new one was an improvement. I still like it better than Windows 11's Task Manager, which I feel like they ruined because it's noticeably performs slower than the Windows 8 Task Manager. And it introduced a new File Explorer, which was nice, and let's see, what else did they introduce? Native USB 3.0 support. In the Pro version of Windows, you would now have, you can now use Hyper-V. I can't remember if Windows 7 Pro had BitLocker, but Windows 8 Pro did have BitLocker. Windows 8 supposedly actually performed, as faster boot up than Windows 7. They really did have some nice quality of life improvements that made me actually a fan of Windows 8, but yeah, Metro was garbage, and if you're using the desktop mode, the interface just wasn't as pretty, essentially, or good looking as Windows 7's. It was a genuinely worse looking operating system. Anyways. Yeah, Windows 7 with EUS updates, I forget what that stands for. Extended update support it ended this year as well, and so did like Microsoft Edge support for both operating systems, which I still find that funny how Microsoft released the Chromium version of Microsoft Edge. Its original release was one day after Windows 7 support ended, and they chose to support Windows 7 regardless, which is an interesting choice. But they did it. So 47 Ti, even though 8.1 may not be as impactful as 7 or 10, I still have fond memories of it, and I agree, I do. How many times do people still tell you that they remember you from the Dan TDM video? Pretty much never anymore. XP, let's see, 47 Ti uses less power and cheaper than a 3090. But it gives you less VRAM, and I don't like that. Sir, do you used to play games on your PC? Used to more in the past than I do now, but I still like playing games. Your dream PC specs are i5 3600K or i9 1390 100K, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and at least RTX 3060. Well, the thing that makes me want to go AMD over Intel is AMD is on a new platform now for Ryzen, and if I want to buy an upgraded CPU down the road, and it would just be better at the current moment using AMD versus Intel, who is on the last version of CPUs for their platform. So that's the main thing that makes me want to go with AMD this time. Let's see, I would rather use spinning hard drives for mass storage than an SSD, but the other way around for the OS drive and programs. I don't like spinning hard drives for storage anymore either, because I have I have a pictures folder, and maybe this is my fault for not organizing it, but I have like a home pictures folder that contains just pictures, and there's over 10,000 pictures in there. And if I just try to go through it using Windows Explorer, and this folder is currently saved on a hard drive, it's just extremely slow, like very, 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 very slow to load the thumbnails, and if I want to sort everything in the folder, it just takes forever. So that's what's kind of makes me want to use an SSD instead for storage. ESU, extended security updates. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, they updated Windows 7 for the print nightmare thingy. Hey, it's Joseph. Or yeah. Or Jessica, or who. You're Jessica on my Discord server, but your channel here is Joseph. So you use a laptop from 2017 with an i7-700HQ and 16 gigabytes of RAM and NVIDIA GTX 1050 Ti. That still sounds like it's pretty capable, depending on what you want to do. Because those laptops with the specs, I wouldn't really consider them to be a slouch or anything. I mean, I wouldn't play, I wouldn't play, like, I don't know, what game's even out now. I wouldn't play, a modern, like, AAA game at, like, max settings, but it'd still be fine, especially for things like web browsing, or, it'd be fine for, like, general, like, work and school purposes and stuff like that. And would be fine playing a lot of games, probably even modern games at lower settings. Let's see, you missed my videos? Yeah, and I'd like, no promises, but I do think I'd like to give YouTube another chance. I'm the dude to inspire you into tech, especially IT in the first place. And I will say you're not the only person who's told me that. It's kind of weird to be an inspiration for someone. Because I've never really thought of myself as a special person. Like, I've never thought I was smarter than everyone else. I never thought I was necessarily, cooler than everyone else, or had the most amazing channel in the world or anything, but when the content that I did make, I like to think that I did the best I could, and I tried to make it in a way that was both entertaining and informative, and I generally just did it out of passion for the most part. Did it as just something to do, just something I was really passionate about, just sharing information I learned with the world, entertaining people. It was a lot of fun. I don't regret it at all, and I think it was a good decision that I made. Do you recommend dual or multi-booting instead of virtual machines? Depends. VMs are very capable, but in pretty much every case, you're going to get the best performance. You're going to get the best performance with your operating system and the applications that you want to run if you just run it on native hardware versus running it in a VM. Like, VMs are good, in my opinion, are good for a lot of things, but it really comes down to performance. Now what's up, Sumard's Tech Lab? You started watching his channel 6 years ago. Yeah, so that'd be like 2017, 2016. Nice Steam Deck in the background. Where do you see it? Oh, you see the Steam Deck case. Okay, well, here's the actual Steam Deck. And yes, I did choose to run SteamOS. I didn't choose to run Windows. I've tried Windows on here, but Windows kills me because these controls don't work half the time. So I chose to use SteamOS instead. So yeah, these like joysticks and buttons and stuff here just doesn't work as well as they do in SteamOS. So that's why I chose SteamOS. I haven't really played this too much. It was kind of a waste of money, but it's still a very cool piece of hardware. I wanted to own something like this for years, like a handheld gaming PC. Like, this was a device that, if this existed when I was a kid, I would have absolutely begged my parents for. And then I remember I watched a video by Review Tech USA in 2017, I think, where he got the GPD Win, like the original one that came out in 2016 or 17. And he was able to play GTA 5 on his GPD Win. I think it was at very low settings, but he could play it, and I'm like, that's cool. I can play a AAA game on a handheld device like this. And it's like, I kind of want one someday. Now, I didn't buy one back then because it didn't have the specifications that I wanted. This actually does. This has a fairly gaming capable APU with, I forget how much RAM is on here, but it has I bought the 512 gigabyte SSD model. It's a very nice piece of hardware, and I'm kind of surprised how cheap it is. The screen is also pretty good too, despite being less than 1080p. They chose a good IPS panel on here. Hardware-wise, I really have absolutely no complaints with like the actual hardware of the Steam Deck. My Switch here, I still have my launch model Nintendo Switch that I don't really use anymore. I prefer the size of this, but this is just more capable. So instead of using NVIDIA Tegra 1 from 2014, instead I'm using like an APU from 2022 or 2021. So, oh yeah, you remember the skit I did at the beginning of your Windows 10 S video, and I found out just the other day, I didn't realize it still existed. Windows 10S mode still exists, and there's also a Windows 11S mode, which I had no idea about. I thought they kind of phased away that there was no more S mode for Windows, and there definitely wasn't one for Windows 11. But there is an S mode in Windows 11, and I'm like, really? People still buying this? But anyways, what happened? You're gonna try, let's see, SL21LS. I'm also gonna try moving away from spinning disk. I'm gonna get two 4TB NVMe drives instead of a small SSD and a bunch of hard disk. Yeah, that's kind of the way I'd like to go, because right now I have, in my computer, I have 6 terabytes of storage, which is enough for me, but it's split up between 4 drives. I have an NVMe 1 terabyte boot drive. I have a 2 terabyte SATA M.2 SSD. That's a games SSD. Then I have a VM 1 terabyte SATA, like actual SATA connector SSD that dates back to 2014. Dates back to a computer that I had that had an i7-4790K. Then I have a 2 terabyte storage hard drive. Anyways, what happened to the 2005 PC with Windows 10? That computer has been long and gone for many years. I wound up disassembling it, and there's a video on my Instagram that is still up where I showed, I think it's still up, where I showed the assembled, where I basically show the inside of my computer. Let me check. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see this. Hang on. Yeah, it shows the, how I disassembled my computer. Then I never put it back together. I threw away the case and I tried to sell off all the other parts, and the parts that I couldn't sell, I brought to my local recycle center to get it recycled. I kind of wish I didn't get rid of that computer, or at least I just sold it as one piece, but yeah, long story short, that computer does not exist anymore. And you know, the next time I show you all Instagram videos, I think I'll just do it on the web browser on my computer instead of holding up my phone to the screen. Like, yeah, I feel like that's boomerish, but anyways. Doesn't matter. I think the Steam Deck is so cheap because they can afford to eat the cost of the console since they make money on games, and I think you're correct. It's like I'm not too sure the modern Xbox consoles and the PS5 are still sold as loss leaders, but I know back in the day the PS3, even though it was very expensive for the time, it was like 500, 600 plus dollars. Even with it being so expensive, it was still sold as a loss leader. And I think the Xbox 360 might have been the same, or it might have been the Xbox One, but either way. They were sold as loss leaders, and I think the PS4 might have as well, but I don't know. Um, the Note 7, what about it? You mean like how it exploded? um, I still don't like it how it exploded. It pissed me off back in the day because I had wanted to try out a, back when large screen phones were still called phablets. I wanted to try out a large screen Android phone for a while, and I was set to purchase a Note 7. I'm like, this phone, I had kind of a bad experience with my Galaxy S5, but I'd like to try another Samsung. Maybe the Note 7 would be good. And then it started exploding, and yeah, I no longer was considering a Note 7, and I bought a Huawei Nexus 6P instead. So, yeah, that phone was man, that was so bad. Anyways, my PC also came with Windows 11s, but you upgraded it to Windows 10 Home. Good. Yeah, Windows 10X. Yeah, I used to have, I forget what it's called, but how Microsoft had something where you could emulate Windows 10X. I used to have that. Yeah, Pro versions don't have S mode. Windows 10 SE a replacement for S mode. You remember the last time you went to Best Buy with my grandpa, a lot of the 11 laptops on the shelves had S mode on them. Maybe for the cheaper ones, like, I'm not too sure HP even still makes the HP Stream, but I can see S mode being installed on something like that. Okay, yeah, they still make HP Streams, which my understanding are really, 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 really horrible laptops. Yeah, like Amazon here sells one for, you can get an Intel Celeron, which, fun fact, they're actually discontinuing Intel Celeron and Pentium. And now they're just calling their lowest end processor, and I think Intel Atom too. And now they're just calling their lowest end processors Intel Processor, because that just makes so much sense. But they might as well, considering how none of them are known for performance, at least. And Pentium used to be known for performance, but hasn't for a very long time. But anyways, the Intel Celeron here on Amazon, it's like, you get 4 gigabytes of RAM, which could be worse, but that's not great. And then it has eMMC storage, which is horrible. And then it only has 32 gigabytes of it, which is below the Windows 11 system requirements, so it's running Windows 10. But the one that I'm looking at here, it is, this is from 2016. Oh, maybe HP sells a more modern version of that. Okay, they sell a 2022 HP Stream with still 4 gigabytes of RAM, but the eMMC storage has been upgraded to 64 gigabytes, but it's still eMMC storage, so it's still bad. And it still has a 1366 by 768 display. It's cheaper than the 2016 version, which makes me question why they still sell the 2016 version, but whatever. It has AC Wi-Fi, which is not horrible, but it doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, but AC Wi-Fi is fine. But it probably still runs like crap. Let's see. Anyways, let's go back up in the chat here. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I missed some chats. Sir, what do you think about modified or debloated OS like Tiny 10, Atlas 10? So these are like the bloated Windows versions, is that correct? If so, I don't know much about them, so I can't really give my opinion. But I like the idea of a debloated Windows operating system. It's less appealing to me nowadays than it was back in like 2016 though, I'll say that. Like, sure, Windows will still install like Candy Crush, Soda Saga, or whatever by default, but for the most part, and Windows 10 did not used to do this. For the most part, if you just install Windows and stuff like that is installed, you can just right click on it, uninstall it, and it will never come back. It used to be if you removed all the Windows bloatware, right? It would just, the next time Windows did a major update, it would install itself back, but I don't think Windows does that anymore. And not only that, but, or maybe only that, but I don't know, a debloated Windows 10 just doesn't feel as necessary anymore. But it's still cool if people want it. A launch model switch, I should consider running Homebrew on it, maybe. What are my thoughts on Windows 8.1 end of support? I think it was kind of an underrated operating system, but I still didn't like it. I'm kind of surprised they supported it for that long. Same reason I'm surprised they supported Windows Vista for that long. I guess they had an already committed date for supporting Windows, and I'm sure, I had an already committed date, and I think they just didn't want to walk back on that commitment. So, yeah. You have an S22 Ultra, which is basically the modern Note. I will say regarding Samsung phones, though, I was not too impressed with my Galaxy Note 9, which is the last Samsung phone that I owned. Samsung has a thing, or at least they did, even with my Note 9, where they make great hardware, but their software in comparison is kind of lackluster. Like, they'll pack in a lot of features, which is great, but that doesn't necessarily translate into a good software experience where you'll have things like you'll have multiple voice assistants on your phone, or you'll have like, I don't know, you'll have like both a Samsung email app and a Gmail app pre-installed, and you can't remove either fully without rooting, and it's just not my favorite experience. And their update policy has traditionally been very lackluster. Like my Note 9, right? My Note 9 is pretty much fully unsupported now, where if you bought an iPhone 10 in 2017, it would still be fully supported with like the latest iOS, where the Galaxy Note 9 from a year later, it is 3 major Android versions behind. So, from my understanding, Samsung's update policy has gotten better, but they didn't bring this improved update policy to their older phones, so it's basically useless for me. Yeah, I don't get why they still make eMMC storage, considering how SSDs are very, very cheap. Like, if I go on Amazon, right, and I look for an M.2, like, even a 64 gigabyte SSD, which is crap for storage, but, let's see, King Data. Maybe I shouldn't use Amazon to shop for SSDs, because I've never heard of any of these brands. This is what I hate about modern Amazon. There's so many crappy brands that a lot of them are actually the same product that are heavily marked up from Alibaba or AliExpress, that have nonsensical like names for the company that all flood like the first 4 or 5 pages of products when you look something up on Amazon. And you just can't shop for actual name brand products on Amazon that easily. And it annoys me. So what I wind up doing, Amazon's not the only site that does this, like Walmart is horrible with this. But usually what I wind up doing is I just have to go to Google and maybe search on, which Google search results have also gotten worse over the years, but that's a different story. But usually I'll just have to go to other websites than Amazon to try and find products, and then I'll actually, once I find the product I want, then I'll go back onto Amazon, and then I'll be able to, buy a product on Amazon. But anyway, so even if you do want to buy from one of these drive brands I've never heard of, it's like, it's like 20. Let's see how much 128 gigabyte SSD costs. Okay, so you can buy a Silicon Power, which I have heard of that brand, SSD on Newegg for $18. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous that eMMC storage still exists. But anyways, your newest laptops has a i7-10875H with an NVIDIA 2080S with Max-Q. That sounds like good specifications, like I'd use that. Good night, Joseph or Jessica. My little brother has 64 gigabyte eMMC and he has 60 FNF mods. You mean like Five Nights at Freddy's? Or what do you mean by FNF? Let's see, Friday Night Funkin'. I have no idea. Anyways. Friday Night Funkin'. Okay, that used to stand for Five Nights at Freddy's. Have you Yeah, I've been running Windows 11 since the day after launch day. If you need a light OS, better to install any Linux distro. Except some Linux distros really aren't that light. Like you'd think Linux would be, it's probably is generally, has less bloatware than Windows, but if you have a slow Windows computer and you think, oh, I'm just going to install Ubuntu and my computer will be so much faster, I can almost guarantee you it won't be. So unless you'd probably be better off in a situation like that installing a more actual lightweight Linux distribution. Samsung software is improved on the new One UI. I don't like One UI though. But then again, I haven't tried the latest version of One UI. I used to think it was actually better than Google's version of Android, but I own a Pixel 6 now, and I like Google's UI, I think, better. Edge is pretty good. I don't think Edge is a good product at all. Its main draw is that they finally moved away from the Trident engine like web layout engine, and now they're technically, I think it was called Edge HTML, but it was based on the Trident engine from Internet Explorer. So it might as but anyways, they finally moved on to that one that uses a Chromium-based browser that uses the Blink engine. So as far as like web standards and stuff like that, Edge is pretty good now. Where they aren't good is when they're trying to pack so many features into their browser that it genuinely feels like an overbloated browser, and Microsoft is really trying to push you to use Edge. And Edge has so many annoying things, like when you open Edge, it's, first of all, you can change this obviously, but first of all, if you have your search engine set to Google, they'll practically beg you to use Bing, which I hate. And then on their default home page tab, whatever they call it, you can search the web, but you can only search Bing. You can't use Google. And then, after updating Windows, it will eventually show a prompt where it's like, finish setting up your PC, and it's like, you should set Edge as your default browser, and you should set Bing as your default search engine. And it's like, no, I do not want to do that. And their default feed when you open Microsoft Edge on their default homepage is very crappy. It's filled with news articles and it's like, I don't want to see this stuff upon opening my browser. And luckily you can turn off the news articles and all that crap, but it's still just annoying. And that is why I don't use Edge. I actually do use Edge for work, but that is why I don't use Edge for outside of work. I'm probably gonna stop using Chrome as soon as they release that update that basically makes uBlock Origin a lot less efficient at blocking ads. But as of right now, I still use Chrome. And I'll probably switch to using Firefox as my alternative browser. And if I decide that I cannot live without a Chromium-based browser, I'll look into... I was thinking Brave, but I don't know if I want to use Brave. People on Instagram really seem to love Opera GX, but just because some random person in an Instagram comment section says it doesn't mean it's actually a good browser. So on my computer here, I use Windows 11 Pro. You still use a Note 9 and an iPhone 7 as a backup? Cool. What are my thoughts on Chrome OS? It's fine, but it's fine. It's just not my preferred operating system. It's better than it was when it first released. At least you can actually run applications that aren't just a web browser. supposedly running any Linux distro is better. Yeah, there's not really a valid reason to run Windows XP anymore. Either you have retro hardware, which is cool, you could run it on retro hardware, or it could be like the company that I'm at, where they have devices, vendor devices, so devices not supported by the IT department at my company, that are stuck on Windows XP, and it would just be so expensive to get new devices that they just chose to keep using Windows XP indefinitely. And we have some of those computers that runs on look very ancient. I saw one a few months ago. It wasn't on, so I didn't verify, but it looked old enough to run Windows 98. Okay, so you use Brave browser. So you use Opera GX, okay, and you use Firefox. I genuinely have no idea what to use as an alternative browser. Because I know Brave's thing was they were really trying to push cryptocurrency and the blockchain and stuff like that. Where Opera GX's thing is that it's basically regular Opera, but gaming focused is what my understanding is. And I mean, I haven't installed, I could just check, but it's a gaming focused browser. And then Firefox is Firefox. And I would be more than happy with Firefox, but I think the web has gone to a point where not having a Chromium based engine is kind of a downside. You're using an M1 MacBook Air with Firefox. I don't think that's weird. Hey, it's Total Tower Tech. You've been here basically since almost the beginning, so cool. Like the beginning, well, maybe not the very beginning of my channel, but for years. Yeah, something that's kind of pissed me off that mainly started in Windows 8, but it really seems to have increased in Windows 10, and Windows 11 is no exception. Samuel Juan Kenobi. And you've been here for a while too, I think, but let's see. You don't like how modern software, the way they shove their software in your face. Yeah, I absolutely hate it. And it's something that pisses me off about Windows, and I really, 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 really hate it. How Microsoft also is trying to essentially force you to use a Microsoft account with Windows. Not a single other mainstream operating system that I'm aware of that's not Chrome OS forces you, tries to really beg and force you to use an online account to use an operating system. Like iOS, you can just straight up refuse and not sign in to an Apple account if you don't want to download anything from the App Store. Same thing with macOS and Android. And so yeah, it's really pathetic how Microsoft does things, and it pisses me off. They've been trying to encourage you to use a Microsoft account basically since Windows 8. It got a lot more annoying with Windows 10, and it's even more annoying with Windows 11. So how much does the US military get support for XP? Well, it's my understanding that Microsoft doesn't support XP at all anymore, so I would say they get zero support. What did I think about Windows Me when it launched in September of 2000? Well, I don't remember the launch of Windows Me because I was 5. At least or I might have just turned 6, but either way. Yeah, I was 5 if it released on September 14th of 2000, so I had zero thoughts back then, and I didn't use it as a kid. but from like a retrospective purpose, Windows Me, I feel like was underrated, and it got a lot of hate for being unstable, but it's like, but Windows 98 wasn't stable either, and neither was Windows 95. So I'm not sure why Windows Me got a lot of hate for being unstable when none of the Windows 9X systems were like completely 100% stable. I think the main detriment to me was it was an operating system. First of all, it was one that was essentially never meant to be. It was never supposed to exist. It wasn't in Microsoft's roadmap. And essentially, they just made it to have a consumer version of Windows 2000 releasing in the same year. But Windows Me actually introduced new features, like it introduced System Restore, which very good feature to introduce. It introduced, what else did it introduce? I think it introduced native USB support. Yeah, it did. Which was definitely a quality of life improvement over Windows 98. Like it even I tried out installing Windows Me recently on a computer that I wanted to play retro games on. The reason I chose Windows Me is because I had Windows 98 and I couldn't get flash drives and a lot of other drivers to work at all without using floppy disk, and I only have one floppy disk, but the installers I was trying to use wanted multiple floppy disks. So I decided to just try out Windows Me instead, and Windows Me actually wound up working a lot better. But yeah, so yeah, that's the main thing, I guess, System Restore. And it also used the Windows 2000 interface. In a lot of ways, I guess it was essentially more of a Windows 98 third edition. But yeah, I feel like Windows Me was kind of underrated for a Windows 9X system. I guess the only other, let's see, the only other, I'm gonna just get some hand sanitizer real quickly. The only main other detriment to me is that they removed real-time DOS mode. So if you wanted to run an application that used real-time DOS, too bad. Funny how Microsoft Edge is on Mac and Linux. Well, I don't see a reason for them not to release Edge for Mac and Linux. Under Satya Nadella, or however you pronounce his first name, his goal has not been to have all of their software working on Windows, basically, and force you to use Windows. Under him, he seems to have more of a, if our software can run, we might as well just bring our software and make it cross-platform. And especially considering how like Chrome runs on Mac OS and Linux, you might as well just make, why is my nose so itchy all of a sudden? You might as well just make Edge work on Mac and Linux. Would you use Safari if Apple still supported it on Windows? Definitely not. I don't really like Safari. It's not a horrible browser, but it's just not my preferred one. Do I use Mac at all? Yeah, but not that often. I have an M1 MacBook Air. It's a great computer, I like it, but I don't know, I guess I'm just more used to Windows. Maybe it's because I use Windows all the time at my job. The hardware's great though. And I don't like Windows better than Mac OS. I'm just simply more used to using Windows. Yeah, Windows Me support ended in 2006, but they did that on purpose. Microsoft, I think at that point in time, I don't think they had this until 2002. They did not have their 5 years of mainstream support and 5 years of extended support policy. And I think that was the year they introduced it. And I don't think Windows XP and I want to say 2000 originally had that policy. I think I could be wrong, but I think XP's support was supposed to end in 2007 and extended support was supposed to end in 2009 or something like that. It used to be shorter and then Microsoft made it longer. And I think there's really two reasons. They made it longer. Or maybe not, I don't know. If I just do a quick Google search, it doesn't say anything, but I don't know. Anyways, I think Microsoft essentially chose not to bring that. Oh, I think I remember. I think Microsoft's original support policy, or at some point they essentially said something along the lines of, while we're going to support Windows XP Professional until 2014, but we're not going to support Windows XP Home for that long. But then they eventually relented and supported Windows XP Home until 2014 because it was essentially the same operating system as Professional, just with less features. But yeah, Windows Me, I think they essentially just didn't want to support the Windows 9X line for a decade, but they almost did that with Windows 98. Support for that operating system was supposed to end in 2004, and then they extended it to 2006. And same thing with Windows Me. I can talk about cars. Like, what do you want to talk about about cars? I like talking about tech, but cars are cool. You needed an account to switch Windows 11 out of S mode. For me, the first Windows PC that I had at home was an AST desktop that you got with Windows 95 that we got in early 1997. I think the first OS I used was technically Windows 3.1, but I don't remember it. So for all intents and purposes, my real first operating system was Windows 95. And it was running on a Packard Bell computer, and it was crap. It was really bad. It would freeze all the time, it was very slow, and yeah, my mom hated that computer. And eventually gave it to my grandparents for them to hate. But it was interesting. She gave it to my grandparents, and like, I think they got that computer in 1995. And the year 2000, they gave it to my grandparents. Or 1999, because my grandparents got a new computer. Or, no, my mom got a new computer. And I remember it being very slow there as well. And I think they actually took it to a PC repair shop to fix the issue. And they got it back, but then they had to take it back to the PC repair shop. And I remember they got it back. The second time they got it back, it had a new operating system on there. And so this would have been in like early 2001. And I'm not sure if they got Windows 98 or Windows Me, but I remember it looking different. So I'm thinking that operating system was actually Windows Me, and I had just never realized it as a kid or even as a young adult that I had actually used Windows Me as a kid. Unless the repair shop installed Windows 2000, but I'm pretty sure I don't think it was Windows 2000. Could have been, but Windows Me would have made more sense at the time, I guess, because it was for home users. And it was funny. A few years ago, I actually asked my grandma. I'm like, "Hey, do y'all still have that Packard Bell?" And she was like, "Oh no, I don't. I donated it to my church in 2009. But if I had known you wanted it, I would have kept it." And it's like, oh, cool. I mean that. I don't know how much good that computer did the church. Probably not that good, but that's what she wound up doing. Um, what are your thoughts on if Windows 12 is released? I kind of don't like that they even released Windows 11. Because I know this was like an offhanded comment by some person at Microsoft that Windows 10 was the last version of Windows, but it's like they really, really went with it, and basically all of Microsoft did act like Windows 10 was the last version of Windows. And it was cool because it's like, for here on forward, there's no more big Windows versions to worry about. It's just, for now on, you just have Windows 10 and you just have future updates. You don't have to go around, worry about replacing hardware or swapping out computers. And I'm coming at this from the perspective of an IT support person. You don't have to go around and swap computers because you're upgrading major Windows versions. You can just push out Windows feature updates. That's it. And because Windows 10 supports a wide variety of hardware, they're probably not going to discontinue support for it. So if I really want to, I can have a computer that's like 15 years old still running the latest version of Windows 10. From an IT support perspective, Windows 10 being the last version of Windows was great. I was very happy about it. And then Microsoft ruined all that with Windows 11. And if they do release a Windows 12, and they do it about 3 years after they release Windows 11, it's going to piss me off. Because the company that I work at is looking at moving to Windows 11. And we're looking at doing it this year or next year, right? And if we move to Windows 11 and they literally release Windows 12 as soon as we're finished moving to Windows 11, it's gonna piss me off. Because it's like, we just did all this work moving to Windows 11, and it might as well have been all for nothing. But if we wait until the last minute to move to Windows 11, that's how we're going to end up with unsupported Windows 10 devices. And yes, I do think Windows 10 is going to have an extended security update program. I, without a doubt, think that. You made an account to switch window. Let's see. You think Windows XP still has more share than Linux? Let's see. Access to DOS. The first Windows XP I tried out was on a gateway at your uncle's house somewhere around 2005. You're born in 2003, by the way, when XP was just 2 years old. Let's see. Actually, the very first gaming PC that built yourself was in early 2001 with a 1 gigahertz Pentium 4, or excuse me, 3. You put Windows XP, me on it, then upgraded. Same, oh, what the hell? What the hell, what? Let's see. Quit your job and use your Mac? No. Do you know Internet Explorer is still in Windows 11? Yeah. If you go to the control panel and you click on where it says, you go to like large icons view and you click on Internet options and you click the question mark from that window, it's going to open Windows 11, which is really, really stupid. In fact, I can actually show this. Hang on. I think, or maybe not. Hang on. Can I show this? Cool. Oh, hang on. Actually, we'll just leave it like this. So if you click on, where are we? Internet options, question mark, Windows, we have Internet Explorer. It's so stupid. They never truly removed Internet Explorer, even though they said they were going to. But that's okay. Or maybe it's not okay. Speaking of, and you know something, they still haven't finished moving all the control panel settings to the settings app. And not only did they never finish that in Windows 10, they completely redid the settings app in Windows 11. They, in a way, kind of threw, I wouldn't say they threw out all their old progress, but it's like, really, I just got used to the Windows 10 settings app, and now we're going to the Windows, now they changed the settings app, but anyways. Where was I? Let's move some stuff on my screen here. How did I have this before? Whatever. There's no... Yeah, I know there's a way to sign in to Windows 11 without a Microsoft account. You can actually do it pretty easily if you don't have an internet connection. Windows 12 and its rumors leaks. I don't think there are any, are there? Or maybe there are some, but I really don't care until we see like actual screenshots and actual confirmed rumors. But yeah, if Windows 11, yeah, I don't know. Bypass OBBE, let's see. What do you think on why Microsoft skipped Windows 9? I think that explanation that they skipped Windows 9 because there was software back in the day where basically they were written for Windows 9X, but instead of programming the software for where it would look for Windows 95 or 98, they just programmed it so it would look for Windows 9, and I think that explanation makes more sense. And I think the other explanation that makes a lot of sense is, you know, macOS at the time had macOS 10, and maybe just Microsoft wanted to be consistent with what Apple was doing for like marketing reasons. But then Apple moved on to Mac OS 11, and now is Microsoft that was stuck on an OS with the version 10. You last saw Bingo Cat stream when you were 19. I genuinely have no idea how old you are. I know you're in your 20s, but I don't know how old. When did you get mod? I don't know. Obviously, I gave you mod, but... You were 8 the last time that I streamed? Let's see. You got interested in tech in 2016 or 17? And February 14th, they're going to disable IE from Windows 10. Yeah, I'll have to check that out, but it's probably still going to be the same as Windows 11, where if you click on a button or something, it's gonna just straight up open Internet Explorer. You're 19 turning 20. I'm not that behind on chat now. At the school I went to, we had an XP computers, but then one Vista computer that was newer, that was just used to hold data like a PDF, the printer manual and stuff. You know, it kind of pissed me off when I was in middle school. So when I was in middle school, when I was in 6th grade, that's when Windows Vista was released. It was understandable that we didn't upgrade to Windows Vista at all the entire time Windows Vista was out. It annoyed me a little bit because we would get brand new computers and my school system would be installing Windows XP even in like 2009. But it's like, okay, Windows Vista has a bad reputation. I can see why, they're choosing not to install Windows Vista. But it annoyed me because then Windows 7 came out, and after Windows 7 Service Pack 1, Windows 7 was pretty much considered to be solid from a business perspective. And even after that happened, my school system still chose to use Windows XP on everything. So my school system, I remember, like this one class I took, they used AutoCAD in, and they wound up buying us new HP workstation grade desktops that actually had dedicated graphics cards and Xeon processors for AutoCAD. And so this was in like late 2011. But they chose to install Windows XP on there. They did not install Windows 7. They chose Windows XP. So, and it was so stupid because my school system, literally, they would be buying brand new hardware at the beginning of 2013, like brand new Lenovo whatever models they were buying, and they would still be installing Windows XP, and it was so stupid. It's like, so that year, like over the summer that year, they actually did upgrade to Windows 7, but they literally waited until they had no choice but to upgrade. And it's like, but you're missing out on like all the new software features, and if you just upgraded now, you wouldn't have to run around at the end of Windows XP's life cycle and worry about replacing all these computers or swapping all these computers, and it kind of annoyed me. And the other thing that annoyed me about my school system is they also waited an extremely long time before moving away from Internet Explorer 6, where, so the year was literally 2010, and literally the only browser installed on school computers was Internet Explorer 6, which everyone at that point hated. And it's like, why are we still using Internet Explorer 6? But I noticed that year they had started upgrading, but they didn't choose Internet Explorer 8. They chose Internet Explorer 7 for some reason. So I'm like, oh, come on, why can't they just use Internet Explorer 8? But anyways. You're 13, turning 14 in July. I'm 13, turning 14 in July 15, and I got interested in tech in 2016, and you remember for some reason we were using Windows XP in 2017. Yeah, that sounds like school systems, first of all, and second of all, yeah, I'm trying to think. None of the colleges that I ever went to, no, that's a lie. The colleges I went to, the first one did have Windows XP computers that were left. At the school I went to, we had an XP. Let's see. Do I watch Theo Joe? Yeah, sometimes. Oh, you were using Windows XP at home. That gotcha. I remember there being a thing where a lot of businesses just kept using XP till 2014, even if they brought new PCs. Yeah. Will you keep the stream public? I don't really have a reason to make it private so far. Your elementary school or your primary school would use old 2008 PCs with Windows 10. And that's cool because at least they're using Windows 10. But you know, it's funny. So I haven't been there in years, but my local library opened in 2006, and I remember going in there like a year after Windows XP support ended, and my laptops even, I mean, excuse me, my library even at the time had kind of crappy computers. They are like these all-in-one compact computers that just weren't great. And in my mind, I'm like, when these computers at this point in time are 9 years old, they were not that great to begin with. So surely they'll have like new computers by now. But I remember going in there and they literally had kept the compacts and they just put Windows 7 on there. So after seeing that, I'm like, are they literally, when Windows 7 support ends, just going to put Windows 10 on the compacts? Because technically it will probably run, but they didn't do that. And a grand 13 years after the library opened, they had finally replaced their computers with Windows 7 Lenovo computers, but it was Windows 7 in 2019, for what it's worth. So, brand new hardware, but now they're using outdated operating system. Okay, see you, the PC user. Oh, cool. They, I could have sworn, at least, maybe it's, maybe it's because in YouTube, I'm in YouTube Studio right now. I could have sworn they got rid of the button that allows you to go directly to someone's YouTube channel. And maybe it's still this way for like you guys, but they seem to have brought that button back, which is good. So that's good. I haven't watched a YouTube live stream in a minute though. Do I wish M1 Max could run Windows? Yeah, absolutely. From my understanding though, Apple claims it's up to Microsoft to bring Windows to Macs. And the reason they haven't done it is because Microsoft has an exclusivity deal with Qualcomm, where they can only run the ARM versions of Windows on Qualcomm systems. And so as a result, there's no M1 version of, there's no version of Windows for M1 Macs. You think the network director at your college was also my professor last semester, so he also told us about some of the plans for upgrading our computers. I think they want to do Windows 11, and they want to do that at my company as well. We're planning a Windows 11 upgrade, and it's still going to piss me off if once we're done with this upgrade, Windows 12 is out. But you were so excited when you saw the Windows 10 logo when your school PC booted. Yeah, I think I would have been too. Your school upgraded. Does Windows XP have an ESU? No, they don't. Your school upgraded from 7 to 10 in 2018. Your college uses Windows 10 for most things. Although some of the older lab software devs still haven't updated stuff to work beyond Windows 7. Granted, the shit never connects to any network, so it's okay. It's been at least 5 years since I've heard from you. Maybe I should actually post videos. Why did Windows 7 get end of support in 2020 instead of 2019? I have no idea. They removed that button for a little bit, they brought it back not too long ago. They removed it years ago, I believe, though. There's a Windows 11 ARM beta in dev, and it's like crazy how Windows 11 always delays features. Where are my Android apps? I mean, the Amazon App Store works now. But yeah, they did wound up delaying that feature. But I don't hate that. I'd rather them release the new features when they're ready instead of rushing them. And I kind of like the approach they're going with now, where instead of delaying features just to release them with a major Windows version, they just release them when they're ready. Your favorite video of yours is a Windows Vista end of support. Yeah, that was a pretty good video. I liked that video. School just seems to be the worst with upgrading systems. Yeah, that is very true. School funding is weird. Anyways. It inspired you to create your own about Windows 8.1. That's cool. I probably should have done a video like that. I just didn't. By the way, unrelated kind of bingo cat, do you happen to be going to the university in the state of Tennessee? I have not been in Tennessee since 2006, so no. The university that I went to was East Carolina University. You know someone who still uses Windows 98 for what? I have a clone. Okay. You found my doppelganger, in other words. Yeah, ECU is it's not a horrible school. Come to Colorado? Yeah, maybe. I will tell you, I am planning to go to LTX, Linus Tech Tips, um, Linus Tech Tips Expo. I actually had bought tickets and I was fully planning to go in 2020. It didn't happen for obvious reasons. But I would love to go to LTX in 2023. I do plan on going. What's up, Mustachio 3? Yeah, a bunch of places like schools and medical centers still use Windows 10. Well, I will tell you the company that I worked at, and I will mention that it is healthcare related. We did pay for Windows 7 ESU, and it was not cheap. I used to watch your video a lot in high school. It's nice that you're back. Cool. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so what else should we talk about or do? We can always do things, we don't have to just talk. Although I don't mind talking, talking is fun. I've said this a million times, by the way, but I do also have other social media. There's a Linktree link in the description that contains all my other social media. I used to be an avid Twitter user. I barely post on Twitter anymore because Elon Musk and Twitter just has not been a good arrangement, and I kind of hate, I don't know if I'd say hate Twitter, but it's not my favorite. Instagram I don't use that much. Discord I still use quite a bit. Hop on Hypixel. No thank you. I sound like Joe Swanson? You mean Joe Swanson? I have no idea if EOS programs come with bug fixes. Well, I mean, if you're talking about Windows, yeah, they would get bug fixes. Auto BSB/C. Yeah, I will say, ECU has a reputation for being a party school, but just because you go to ECU, doesn't mean you have to party. I didn't really do that stuff. Like, if you just want to go there for an education, Windows. ECU is perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to live in the dorms, you don't you don't have to do stuff just because everyone else is doing it. Like, I'm just saying. And not only that, but there's so many more people attending, like, I forget how many people attend ECU, but it's not like a high school or where like practically everyone knows each other. You know, it's funny though, I thought I knew and recognized every person in my senior class at high school. And then when we actually went to graduation, there was like a ton of people that I swore I had never seen before in my life. And I'm like, how come I've literally never saw you around my high school once? ECU made you live in the dorms. I think they might make you do that for part of freshman year. Let's see. Oh, you know, that's a good point. I was not a traditional ECU student, so that's why I didn't live in the dorms. Yeah, according to ECU's website, all freshmen are required to live on campus as part of a common experience to bond new students to the university, which I think is really stupid. Like, that should not be a requirement. That is an absolutely antiquated requirement in 2023, but nevertheless, they require it. Um, you see, I had transferred to ECU from a community college, so that's why I didn't do it. ECU, though, their actual dorms, like, you know, I've been to their actual dorms. A lot of them actually aren't too bad. They have some, like, brand new dorms. Oh, ChatGPT, that was like the first piece of tech that genuinely impressed me in a while. I think ChatGPT is amazing. It's definitely the smartest chatbot I've ever used, and in a, I think it has great potential, and I'm glad to see that I'm not the only person that thinks this. I wouldn't say it makes Google irrelevant, but it is an amazing tool, and it's cool. It can even do, you know, it can write code for you, and it can write scripts, and it's like, that's so cool. And it can even do stuff like I had mentioned earlier in the stream. You know, last month I was trying to set up a Windows 98 computer to play retro games. I asked it a question like, I forget the exact question, but it's like, how do I install something or another in Windows 98? And it actually answered the question completely correctly. And that this was something that I had spent like quite a bit of time, you know, figuring out by trial and error and doing Google research. And, you know, it wasn't super obvious based on doing Google research on what the correct answer was. But ChatGPT, I figured out the correct answer, but ChatGPT actually gave me the correct answer after just asking it the same exact question that I had. And it's like, dude, that's cool. Let's see. You don't get why colleges make freshmen live in the dorms. You'd rather live in your parents' house. Let's see. I just filed a patent for genetically modified yeast, so my uni gives me an apartment and a stipend. That's cool. Your parents kicked you out. I don't think I would do that if I had 18-year-old kids. I don't know. I'm kind of the side that, once kids turn 18, you as the parent have literally zero obligation to help out your kids for the rest of your life. But I would personally not do that. Oh, the specs of my PC. My PC is getting older, but my processor is an i7 8700K. I have 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. I have 4 storage drives, including 3 SSDs, and one of those is an NVMe SSD, and a hard disk drive. And my graphics card is a NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti Founders Edition with a Corsair, I think 460X case, an Asus Prime 370 series or Prime 378 2 motherboard or something like that, with a semi-modular power supply, and that's about it. You're gonna get some sleep. Cool. Okay, good night. Your PC specs, you have a Ryzen 3 8250U with 128 gigabyte SSD, 8 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, and Acer Aspire 3. I've heard that those are not bad laptops, like, at all. Yeah, let's see. Your dad was also pissed you didn't go into comp sci or engineering, so I wouldn't have wanted to have that argument every time I went home. Why do parents get pissed when their kids don't go to the college that they want them to go to, or don't get the degree that they want them to? Like, I don't know. It's like, even if your parents are paying for your college, it's like, you gotta let your kids make your own decision when they're 18. Can't believe Microsoft already considers stuff one generation older than our PCs obsolete. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't like it, but the i7 7th, the 7th gen Intel CPUs are going to be almost 9 years old when Windows 10 support ends, and I don't consider those CPUs to be that great anymore. Or even back in the day, I was never too impressed with 7th gen Intel CPUs. Ryzen I was more impressed with. But, it's like, I mean, they're fine for the time, but it's like they really have not held up well if we're talking about like PC gaming or for productivity, or things outside of like browsing the web and office work. Like, you can still do it, sure, but there are definitely, you can still do more intense things, but there are benefits to moving to a new CPU. You went into chemistry. I went to a college that had Windows Vista laptops, but with Windows 10 installed on it. Interesting. I did the same thing at my old job that I left in 2020, where we had Vista era laptops that I wound up installing 10 on because we didn't have a high enough budget to replace every single laptop in the company, and there were some people that just didn't have the greatest need for laptops that wanted laptops, and I literally installed Windows 10 on computers that came out in like 2006. So it's like it was an absolutely horrible experience, but, well, I wouldn't say horrible, it was pretty bad, but it would run. Windows 10 supported the Pentium 4. Windows 10 feels so more modern, but just 2 years later, they've got some stuff planned. You cannot believe Windows 10 22H2 actually runs on really old computers. It's cool that they do. That was an advantage to Windows for the longest time that has since disappeared with Windows 11. I was looking to see if I had something else to drink besides just like plain water, but all I really have is just plain water. At least I have sparkling water, but the flavor is awful, so I don't want to drink it. And I have Monster Energy, but it is literally 1:57 a.m. and I have tea, but I don't want to drink tea. So all I've really been doing on this stream so far, on this 1 hour 57-minute stream, is literally just talking. So if I do make videos, I think I would go back to my roots and make like videos about Windows, basically. Videos about like, Windows 11, like comparing it to Windows 10, stuff like that. Microsoft's website still says Windows 8.1 is supported, really? Huh. Where do you see that? Oh. Well, they have an article on learn.microsoft.com about Windows 8.1 end of support. And it says Windows 8.1 will reach end of support on January 10th, 2023. And it's like, what already? Oh, and this is what's so stupid. Oh, hang on. You can edit this document. Huh. I didn't know you could do this. Hang on. Interesting. Let's go back to my screen here. Look at this. If I hover over here, it says edit this document. But if I click edit, it brings me to GitHub, and it says 404. So unless I have to sign in, but this just has one contributor, this whoever that I never heard of. Now if we go here, this clearly says that, Windows 8.1 support has ended. But if we go here, it says Windows 8.1 will reach the end of support on January 10th, 2023. And then we go here. Oh, this is talking about Microsoft 365 though. And then, what's the first best time zone? Because the first best is East Coast, Eastern Standard Time. Do you like the modern life cycle or the fixed life cycle with mainstream support and extended support? I preferred the fixed life cycle because I don't like knowing, and this is coming from I work in the IT industry perspective. I don't like not knowing how long a version of Windows is going to be supported. Let's just put it that way. So the advantage to like the fixed life cycle is you get to know ahead of time. Like if you're putting a Windows 7, like if you're installing a Windows 7 computer 1 year after release, you could literally be like, so if you installed a Windows 7 computer at the beginning of 2011, you could be literally like, hey, I got at least 9 years of where I could literally not touch this computer at all, and unless it physically breaks, I don't have to worry about this computer for 9 years. Where with Windows 10, it's like, okay, this is the last version of Windows. It's supported indefinitely. I could literally never worry about having to replace hardware again if I don't want. And then Microsoft ruined that by releasing Windows 11 and only being told when Windows 11 was released, oh, hey, look, you only got 4 years left of Windows 10 support. And it's like, but it would have been nice to know this back in 2015. It would have made planning easier from like a business perspective. Now, from a consumer perspective, it really doesn't matter, because I think a lot of consumers just don't care about Windows end of support, and they'll typically upgrade their computers when it either breaks, so either have to break, become too slow, or they'll upgrade because the software they want to use is no longer supported. Most consumers, I don't think, upgrade because they no longer get security updates. So those are my thoughts anyways. And yeah, I think they should extend Windows 10 support. I don't think it's long enough. I think it would make more sense if they went with how Windows used to be supported, where you would have mainstream support either 5 years after the major Windows version was released or 2 years after its successor was released. That's when it would go into for at least 2 years after its successor released. So I think it would make more sense if in October 2023, if Windows 11 entered into the extended security updates phase and support actually lasted until 2028. But the reason I don't think they're doing that is because they don't want a repeat of what happened at the end of Windows XP's end of support, where they don't want to have to support an operating system for 12 or 13 years, which they're already doing for Windows 10 because of Windows 10 LTSB, the version that they released in 2019. But they basically, not only do they not want that, but I think they have a vested business interest with computer hardware manufacturers to get people upgraded off of their old computers. So, yeah. You can tell Microsoft was bribed by OEMs to make unreasonable. Well, I don't think they're super unreasonable. I just think that. In fact, I don't even think it was the OEMs. I think it was Microsoft that decided that they or maybe the OEMs were pissed at Microsoft for not. Maybe this is what happened. So during the pandemic, PC sales got a huge boost because all of a sudden everyone was working from home and everyone was doing school from home, and it's like companies were buying a ton of laptops and stuff. And once places started reopening from the lockdowns, all of a sudden PC sales started dropping. And like hardware manufacturers or OEMs were like, oh shoot, we need a way to soften the impact of dropping sales. And so maybe they just straight up went to Microsoft and were like, maybe, well, maybe they told Microsoft, you keeping Windows 10 around forever isn't helping our sales. And Microsoft is like, you're right. And we also kind of miss the amount of money we were making from, Windows licenses. And so Microsoft is like, oh, we'll just use this security feature as a new excuse to get people to buy new computers. So, if that makes sense. What you could do, Pimp Tom, I have a UPS on my computer. You could just, I wonder if you got a UPS, if that would make things better for your unreliable power grid. Hmm. Okay, let's see. Uh, Sorry, taking a break for a minute. Okay, I think the next stream I do, I think I finally want to get a new webcam, or I might actually get a non-webcam camera. And I want to get a proper working microphone. And I want to get some more lighting. I have a ring light, but I'm not using it right now. So I think lighting is not that good for this stream. Yeah, the Ryzen 7 2700 was considered very good back in the day. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Oh yeah, hang on. See that Dell CRT? Hang on. Yeah, there's a reason there's a reason I have that here. It's because I was using that with the Windows 98 computer that I was talking about. Pico Cat is a loser. Balls to the walls, next PC. Yeah, I was using that with my Windows 98 computer, but the reason that it's sitting out here is because I don't have any other room to store it. Sarmard's Tech Lab, don't worry about Total Tower Tech. We've been friends for years. It's 1 here, you're about to pass out. You know how late I can stay up? I mean, I'm not making fun of you, but you know how late I can stay up. I'm a night owl though. I'll legitimately have more energy sometimes in the middle of the night than I will in the middle of the day. It makes no sense. Your eyes are breaking. Sydney time. I don't know how many of you here have watched OS First Timer, but I know that my channel and his channel for a long time kind of had overlapping fan bases. My channel had overlapping fan bases with like quite a few channels. Like I'm trying to remember. Back in like 2017, there was a channel. It was like Electronic Wiz 1 or something like that. Me and her, our channel fan bases almost seemed to completely overlap. And I have no idea why. Probably because she also made Windows videos. And then, I'm trying to think who else has my channel's fan base overlapped with. Just people who make like videos about like Windows and Windows PCs. But yeah, me, OS First Timer, Electronic Wiz One, Red Eye Computing, or Red Eye Gaming. All of our channels had like a lot of. We had OS. We had overlapping fan bases. Trying to think who else was there. Some kid like 32 megabytes or something like that. Who else? Dell 304. There were some other people too, I'm sure. Similar channels, similar sizes, similar content. I remember I would, a lot of the other YouTubers that were similar sizes to me, I would talk to, and it's funny, I would talk to these other YouTubers, but I never actually wound up doing like collabs or anything with them for some reason. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else had a similar audience and fan base to me and made similar content. I think that was it. I think those were the main people. My Mate Vince. I never heard of them. But I remember watching OS First Timer before I even started YouTube. And so it was weird when my YouTube channel kind of grew a bit and all of a sudden, then I joined his Discord server and then he's left like a comment on my channel and it's like, oh cool. I didn't even do YouTube when I first watched your channel. Have my mom try out OSs. I'm sure my mom would be exactly like Philip's mom when it comes to OSs. Like if I had her try out Windows 8, she probably would have reacted pretty much the exact same way that Philip's mom would have reacted, and I probably would have reacted the same way that Philip have reacted. So maybe that's why like the first time I saw that video it kind of resonated with me. Uh, because that was the first one of his videos that I did watch. Word of OS is OS First Timer New Zealand. I've heard of that one. Does OS First Timer New Zealand still exist? I have not heard of Word of OSs though. Oh, World of OSs. Okay. I could become American OS First Timer. Yeah, I don't think so. um, I mainly because I don't think my mom would want to be in a YouTube video. There's a reason my parents have never been in my YouTube videos. Oh yeah, the Locker Gnome video where he made his... Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah, I seem to kind of remember that, man. Everyone got mad at him for copying OS First Timer. Yeah, what does Phil do nowadays, like outside of OS First Timer? I know he's had jobs where it's like he ran like a daycare service with his mom or something like that. What does he do? I'm just curious. Because, you know, their last video was uploaded 3 months ago. You know, Philip's mom actually ran for Australia's version of Congress or something like that. She had views that I didn't agree with, but nevertheless, she ran for I don't want to say it's parliament. Anyways, but she wound up losing the election anyways. But then there's a video they have on their... Oh, yeah, I seem to... Yeah, I know Philip... Yeah, I know he invests in real estate. And... Yeah, I guess, let's see, Diana Adams hunted Australia. Season 2 video application.
Hi, my name's Diana Adams and I'm 49 years old. I've been married for 30 years and I have 2 children, a daughter aged 13 and a son who's 28. My son and I have a YouTube channel together called OS First Timer, and we have over...
Let's see, if you haven't already, let's see, it's an action-packed reality TV show where contestants go on the run and try to evade the hunters. I'm guessing she didn't get to go on the show. I have no idea. Let's see. Yeah, the Locker Gnome video did come out first. Yeah, I remember that. But anyways, let's see, Philip edits videos for, some companies. Yeah, I don't know if that's his full-time job. And I guess his mom is busy doing... I don't know what she does in Tasmania. I'm not sure what his dad does either, to be honest. Oh yeah. Your summer holidays end soon. Because you're in the summer hemisphere. It's the southern hemisphere. Between Windows 8 and the Xbox One review, I'm amazed Microsoft survived 2012 through 2013. And notice how Steve Ballmer left Microsoft very shortly after all those disasters. I mean, I don't blame him for leaving Microsoft. I think he was in his 60s already by that time, right? Never mind, he was only in his 50s, but either way, him stepping down was a very good thing for Microsoft, and I remember Dude, the Xbox One reveal, it's like, that was so disastrous. How it's interesting, looking back, what they were proposing doing for the Xbox One actually, if they did it today, probably would not be as controversial. But they were really pushing for the Xbox One. The way they were pushing it was kind of weird, where they were pushing it as an entertainment device instead of marketing it clearly as a game console. And the people who would actually go and buy an Xbox, it's like, okay, it can watch Netflix, that's cool, but so can my Xbox 360, and like, all we care about is games. And it's like, okay, well, what about games? And Microsoft, they wanted to also force the Xbox One to come with Kinect, and the most controversial thing about it was like, what was it? They had a very weird DRM policy where basically they wanted the Xbox to stay connected to the internet at all times. So even if you're playing a completely offline game, they wanted it to stay connected to the internet as a DRM protection measure. And they also had a very weird way when it came to game trading and selling, where it was something along the lines of, well, you can sell your games used, but you have to, there's like a license you have to activate or deactivate or something like that. It was just very weird. Then Sony, on the other hand, their marketing, on the other hand, they probably saw all the bad press that Microsoft was getting, and they just straight up were like, hey, we're just coming out with a traditional game console that works the exact same way the PS3 does when it comes to DRM and selling used games and stuff like that. It's going to have a disk drive, it will work offline, not require an internet connection. There was this really awesome ad or video that they had where, it's like the CEO of Sony America or something like that, with president of Sony or something like that, where one of them is holding up a game disc or something, and he goes, this is how you share your games on PS4. And then it said, step 1, sharing the game. And then the guy hands it to the other guy. The other guy goes, thanks. And that was it. That was literally the entire video. And that was such like a legendary blow against Microsoft that I think pretty much solidified that the PlayStation 4 was the right console to get and the Xbox One was the wrong console. And especially after E3, there was like an Xbox executive, after hearing the controversy around like Microsoft's DRM, they said something along the lines of, I think it was Don Matrix said something like, well, you don't have an internet connection, we have a product for you. It's called the Xbox 360. And that was received horribly. And there were stories where, Microsoft did like the typical thing that companies do when they get a backlash against something on YouTube, and they just disabled YouTube comments. They were apparently downvoting comments on Reddit to try and like do Xbox damage control. And after that disastrous reveal, it was literally they wind up eventually just caving and saying they would remove all like the DRM features. And it was hilarious because next thing you know, Don Matrix winds up getting a job at Zynga, and he was probably in reality essentially pressured the step down at Microsoft, and it was just really disastrous and funny. But Microsoft survived that, and the Xbox One was not actually a bad console. I mean, the other thing people didn't like the way they looked. They said it looked like a VCR from like 1995, and so eventually they get a new head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, who's actually forward thinking and seems to actually care about, what gamers want and what people actually want in a game console and in video games. And he's literally will straight up like admit that he also plays like PlayStation games and that he actually owns Sony consoles, and he's just really he's like a really smart dude and seems to have seems to have been making good business decisions for Microsoft, and they really seem to have turned around Xbox as a whole. But anyways. Yeah, you can run. Well, you can still run the latest version of Netflix on a 360. You just don't understand their marketing. They kept pushing, look at all the TV. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. They wanted to essentially make It wanted to make the Xbox be your satellite or cable box. And that's what they were kind of pushing for. And it's like, we buy a game console to play games. We don't buy it for cable TV. And not only that, but cable boxes are like this big. It's not that big of a deal to have a separate cable box. It's cool if it's all in one, but that's not the main thing people are buying an Xbox for. See you, Summers Tech Lab. Power on Microsoft. Or, excuse me, Xbox. Power on the story of the Xbox. TV or not TV? I'm gonna have to watch that. I didn't know that existed. Oh yeah, the 360 and the Red Ring of Death. That was also disastrous. Yeah, I'll have to watch that. That sounds like a interesting video series to watch. I was rolling when I first saw that ad. Yeah, I swear, every year there's at least one company that takes L after L with no end in sight. 2013 Microsoft, 2014 Ubisoft, 2021 Blizzard. Yeah, that's definitely true. Or, yeah. I still think, like, probably one of the biggest gaming backlashes, the one I kind of found funny too, was, how everyone was so pissed at EA for including, like, microtransactions in Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2017, and how EA was essentially making it to be like a pay-to-win kind of game, and they got a 500,000 downvoted comments on Reddit, which I still think is the most downvoted Reddit comment, where they said something like, the point of this game is the point of these microtransactions are to provide a sense of pride and accomplishment or something like that. And then they caved because Disney pressured them. They removed the microtransactions, and it was good that Disney caved to the consumer, but it's like, yeah, there's a reason people genuinely don't like EA. Oh yeah, it's not gambling, it's surprise mechanics. On the other gaming controversy that I particularly remember as being kind of funny is, Diablo Immortal, when, they announced it was only coming to phones, and there was a guy on stage that went, "Do you guys not have phones?" I still think the dumbest gaming controversy of all time, though, was Star Wars Battlefront 5, how literally just because in the gameplay reveal trailer they had a woman and there was a huge backlash because it's like, this isn't representative of World War II, there shouldn't be a woman character, and I'm like, who cares? The majority of you don't care about the game being realistic. Majority of people that actually had problem were just incels and didn't want women in their video games, which is stupid, and it gives gamers a bad name, and the fact that that got a huge backlash was absolutely idiotic and should have not happened. Let's see. What I find dumb is the latest Xbox Series X still has built-in apps from 2013. I didn't know that, but I also don't have an Xbox Series X. But it wouldn't surprise me. Only takes your entire life savings to 100% Diablo Immortal. Yeah, that's true. Or, I don't know, I've never played Diablo Immortal. But yeah, as far as recent gaming controversies, more recent ones I should say, like Activision Blizzard, it's, yeah, not known for being the best company in the world. And I think Cyberpunk, that game could have been so much better. They're updating it and they're improving it, but it was so stupid because people kept complaining when they delayed the game, but when they released it unfinished, they complained. Like, I almost feel like CD Projekt Red was forced to release it. One way or another, even though I wasn't ready. And I learned something the other day that game's development only started in late 2016, and it's like GTA 5, which had, similar kind of ambitions for the time. That game they took 5 years to develop. And Cyberpunk only had 4 years, and they were doing something that was also very ambitious, if not more. So I don't know. That was so stupid. They delay the game, people get mad. They release the game unfinished, people get mad. And it was interesting because CD Projekt Red before that was known as like the gaming company that couldn't do anything wrong. And then they released Cyberpunk, and then all of a sudden that basically ruined their reputation. And you know something? Apparently, because I'm looking at a list of other gaming controversies, Diablo Immortal, it was a mobile game that they announced in 2018, and they did not release it until 2022. Why did it take them 4 years to develop a mobile game? like, I don't get why it took, I mean, I don't say they can't take that long, but I feel like for a phone game, that's typically something that doesn't take 4 years. But I've also never played Diablo Immortal. Don't know when I subscribed to you, but happy you're back. Cool, what's up, Justin Lang? Let's see. Anyways, I don't know how we got onto this topic anymore, but I'll admit I don't own any modern game consoles unless the Nintendo Switch is a modern console, which it's getting to the point where it's technically still modern because it's still the latest Nintendo console, but it's less powerful than the base PS4 and Xbox One, and those aren't modern. Like, Nintendo really needs a Nintendo Switch 2. What's up, Hyos, Gios? Or even like a new Nintendo Switch, like how they did a new Nintendo 3DS. Just release something like that. Like, there's been rumors for literally years about a Switch Pro, but there is still no Switch Pro, and from what I understand, they actually were considering coming out with a Switch Pro, but they never actually came out with a Switch Pro. I've been watching you and was wondering if you'd ever come back, and I come to see this notification on my phone. Cool. I'll be right back. Okay. Switch was the only console I bought since the 7th gen PCs. You're going to go now. Okay, see ya. You just got here, but see you. No, just it's fine. You can go. Once your Switch dies, I'll replace it with the Steam Deck. Dude, I remember I bought my Switch on the launch day, but I couldn't buy it in any store because it was sold out, and I paid over $100 MSRP from some lady on eBay to get a Switch. So that was fun. I'm trying to remember if I actually met her or not. I think she just came and left it on my porch. My black magic is that I paid $430 instead of $300 for a Nintendo Switch on launch day. It was kind of stupid though, because my sister, I think, texted me saying, hey, you know, I'm at blah 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 store. They have a Nintendo Switch. Do you want me to buy it? You want me to buy it? You'll pay me back later while I'm here? And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm gonna get a Nintendo Switch. But later in the day, I'm like, you know what? I want the Nintendo Switch. And I checked with a bunch of stores and they were all sold out. So I'm like, oh, I'll go on eBay. And I find a seller in Raleigh, North Carolina, some lady, who had it, but it was over $100 over MSRP. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, I'll pay it. And that's what I wound up doing. And I'm like, I specifically bought it on eBay instead of, you know, like Facebook Marketplace or whatever was popular in 2017, maybe Craigslist. Because basically I didn't want to meet anyone somewhere. I'm like, I'll just buy it and pay for shipping. She messages me and says, oh, well, I'm actually only located 25 minutes away. I can just come and drop it off at your house. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's what wound up happening. You were just on a call for 4 hours with friends. Let's see, yeah, not sure I would have paid that much. Zelda's cool, but not $130 extra dollars cool. And yeah, that was the first game that I played on my Nintendo Switch was Zelda Breath of the Wild. That game. What happened, by the way, with Zelda Breath of the Wild 2? I've heard rumors about that, but as far as I'm aware of, I haven't heard rumors of that in quite a while. Let's see, Zelda Tears of Kingdom is an upcoming action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo, and it's a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and it's scheduled for release on May 12th, 2023. Okay. That's cool. So they can't be saving it for next Switch though. Huh. Well, I didn't have a Wii U at that point. I don't think my sister did either. I remember she bought a Wii U, but I think at that point in time, she might have sold it. So, yeah, I wound up getting a Switch. Man, that was already 6 years ago. It's so weird to think about that. It's like, I don't know. It's it doesn't feel that long ago. You know what's funny now is I actually own a Wii U now. But I didn't back then. But I don't use my Wii U. It's sitting in the closet right behind me with my Xbox One S. Yeah, my Xbox One S, my Nintendo 2DS XL, and my launch PlayStation 3. Those are all cool consoles, but I don't use them. They're sitting in the closet behind. I think I'm gonna pull my 2DS out of storage and use that again. In fact, I'll do it right now. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah. I also have other computers that I don't use in there. I have my Windows 98 computer, but I also own a 2012 iMac that literally just sits in there and does nothing. And I also own a bunch of ancient games as well. Okay, so here is my Nintendo 2DS that I bought in 2019, basically when this was considered an end-of-life product. And it's almost a shame that Nintendo no longer makes the 2DS or 3DS. I got some other products some other pieces of tech I'd like to show you guys, but it's kind of a shame they no longer make this, because I actually prefer this form factor over the Nintendo Switch, because this is more compact. Now, I had a Nintendo Switch Lite, but I wasn't too impressed with it because you couldn't use it in a Switch dock, and you couldn't output via its USB-C port, which defeats the entire purpose of a Switch. I liked the smaller size, I didn't like anything else about it, and I wound up actually, I gave it to my sister. But this, I still have the launch Nintendo Switch, but I don't like it how this is bigger than the Switch Lite is. I don't think I'd want a Switch Lite in 2023 though. But this, on the other hand, is a pretty nice compact size. It has a stylus for what it's worth, a kind of crappy stylus, but it has one. Where is it? It also has a slot for cartridges that doesn't stay on there fully. Yeah, it's a cartridge slot, a very flimsy cartridge slot. Yeah, here it has a cartridge slot, a headphone jack, which you don't see it in modern electronics that much anymore. How amazing. The world's shortest stylus, a not very high quality screen. This had, maybe I'll set up all my old tech. If I am too lazy to sell it, I might as well at least have all of it set up. This is kind of a flimsy hinge. It has a camera, which the Switch doesn't have. I had accidentally chose some other language. Let's see if I can turn this off. Now, the reason I got a 2DS over a 3DS is not only was it cheaper, but I didn't care about the 3D features. But they released this very late in like the life cycle of the 3DS. I think this was a 2017 product or something like that. Yeah, the Switch Lite is kind of overpriced. Yeah. But it's funny, I didn't get this until 2019, so I didn't get a 3DS or a 2DS until very, 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 very late into the life of one. And my sister had a 3DS, but I never really used it. But anyways, so the main reason I bought it was not only did I not ever have a 2DS, the main game I wound up playing on here was the version of Animal Crossing that came out in 2013. And that was cool. I liked that game. But yeah, I still think this is a pretty cool piece of tech. I still quite like this as far as a tech standpoint goes. Let's see if I can at least get to the setup screen. Our new Nintendo 2DS. We're gonna select English. Hello. Please configure the following settings to prepare the system for use. If you are a child, please have a parent or guardian configure these settings for you. Okay. It gave a message about how this is not a 3DS. It thinks the date is 2017. Okay, the time is 2:57. What's it saying? Nickname. Bingo Cat. Actually, it's just gonna be Casey. Let's see, Casey, because that is my real name. Birthday, September 20th. Region, United States. And North Carolina. Internet. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. SL, you want to use your 2DS again? That 2DS is trying to pretend the Switch never released. Yeah, I forgot about that. Nintendo kept the 3DS around and even released the 2DS in case the Switch was a flop. Because even when the Wii U was doing horribly, the 3DS was still very popular. And so Nintendo wanted to keep around this console and this console line in case the Switch was also a flop. But then the Switch was a success. And after the Switch was a success, they were like, oh, well, I guess we don't need the 3DS anymore, and they reduced their support for it. Would you like to set up an internet connection? It looks like you haven't set up the internet connection on your 3DS yet. Search for access point. Access point found. My Wi-Fi. Okay. Successfully connected to my internet. Settings, SSID, security. Curious what's under security settings. The default WPA2 is fine. Okay. Finish. Exit. Parental controls we're obviously not using. Transfer this data to the system from another system. I don't think I have any online data. I don't think that's gonna work. The Switch feels soulless. Yeah, it really does feel soulless. Like, it doesn't have, like, the music and the of, like, you know, the Wii and the 3DS, and it feels more generic, but at the same time, I feel like that's just been game consoles since, like, the Xbox One and the PS4. And Nintendo, the Wii U was cool, but I think after the failure of the Wii U, they just wanted to do something a little more standardized when it came to software. Even though it wasn't the software that caused the failure, it was the hardware. Okay, now this is telling me it wants to update my system. Startup jingles, I have no idea. And it's funny, you know, it's like the Wii, for example, like the Wii Sports theme and like the Mii Channel theme, especially, has been used in memes and is still popular, like very well-known music even to this day, and it's like, so it wasn't a bad thing, you know, having less soulless software. Wait, look at this. This is stupid. So I have my menu here now, right? I want to change my theme because I want to see if there's like a dark theme. And it's telling me it's not able to change themes because the micro SD card is not inserted. So if you seriously just want to change your theme, you can't do that without a micro SD card. That's so stupid. I know this thing has like practically no onboard storage, but it's still stupid. So let's see if I can get a very old low-end micro SD card from somewhere or something. And I'm not even sure where you insert your micro SD card. And, you know, the other thing about Nintendo's old consoles is, look at this. They use a proprietary charging port instead of just using micro USB, because in 2011 micro USB would have made sense. So I actually do not have a spare micro SD card, apparently. I have a spare full-sized SD card, but I don't have a spare micro SD card. So we're just not going to change our themes. Oh, and yeah, so the 2DS, the micro SD card slot was just under the game cartridge cover. Oh yeah, the Wii Shop channel music, I forgot about that one. So let's just try something. I just want to see if I can do like a system software update on here. They really want you to use a stylus. I like this. If you are under the age of 18, you must get your legal guardian or parent to update the system for you because, you know, pressing update if you're younger than that is just such a bad thing. Oh, they really want you to plug in the power adapter too. Here we go. Oh yeah, the PS Vita. Dude, it's like, that's apparently one of the things that killed the PS Vita. Instead of just using SD cards, it used a very expensive proprietary, like, memory instead of just using SD cards. Because the Vita was cool, I liked the Vita, but that was one thing that was not cool. You know, it's funny though, I've never owned a PS Vita or a PSP. I kind of wanted one back in the day. But I remember when I decided to get a newer, like, portable gaming console that wasn't a Game Boy Advance SP, I wound up asking my parents for a... Well, basically, I just wound up deciding I wanted a DS instead of a PSP, and that's what I wound up using. And for some reason, it just never clicked to me to get a PSP because I didn't really know any games for it. But I thought about buying a PSP just for it, like, it would be cool to have one, like, just for the heck of it. In fact, I'd still like to do that. Because, you know, I did have friends with PSPs, but I just never had one myself. Yeah, but this is something, like, the PSP would have been something I would have really enjoyed as a kid, probably. Okay, so it took the system update for what it's worth. So... the DS did sell better, I'll say that. I don't know if I'd call it the better console, but it sold better. And you know, like the original DS, there was the two... You know, it's interesting. You know what's interesting, first of all, about the DS in 2004? Microsoft, Nintendo, when they came out with the original DS, said that they were introducing it as like a third gaming console. It was one of their pillars or something like that. Their 3 pillars of gaming, something stupid like that. But basically they straight up said, oh, this new console that they're coming out with is not going to replace the Game Boy or the GameCube. It's going to be a third game console. And so they came out with the DS. And it was interesting, the original DS, it also had a Game Boy cartridge slot and could play Game Boy games or Game Boy Advance games. And it was funny, in 2005 they released a new version of the Game Boy Advance, like the Game Boy Advance Micro, but especially after Nintendo came out with their redesigned DS in 2006, the DS Lite, they sold really well, and then they basically abandoned the Game Boy Advanced. And so for all intents and purposes, it was the successor to the Game Boy line and the Game Boy Advance. So it was funny how they went, they went that aspect with it, like almost like they were doing with the Game Boy, like they did with the Nintendo DS and the Switch, where they didn't want to straight up say that their new product was replacing the old product in case the new product failed while their old product was really successful. And I want to say they might have said something like they straight up said that the Wii wasn't replacing the GameCube. But then the Wii was super successful, and literally the next year they basically abandoned the GameCube and they pretty much pretended it never existed. Man, I forgot about all this gaming stuff. I haven't thought about it in a long time. Let's see if I can still go to the Nintendo eShop. I think they shut it down on the 2DS. Well, the original version of Wii could literally just play GameCube games. I think it was every version of the Wii except the last Wii could play GameCube games because essentially the Wii was GameCube hardware at the end of the day, like overclocked GameCube hardware. And yeah, I think you're right. I think it was going to be an add-on to the GameCube. Oh, the eShop still seems to work? Weird. Maybe I was thinking of the Wii U. How about if I just go to... Is there something that I can download for free? Well, I already own Luigi. Let's see. Oh wait, hang on. Luigi's Mansion. It is no longer possible to add funds directly to an account using this device. You can still add funds off device though, using a connected Nintendo account wallet until March 27th. Oh, so they're slowly trying to deprecate the eShop for the 2DS. But will let me download this game? I mean, obviously it won't. Tap here to purchase. Okay, I definitely don't own that then. Well, I'm not signed into a Nintendo account anyway, so it's not like it matters. But I guess... technically games still exist on here. So how do I turn this off? Here we go, power off. They removed the GameCube I don't think they did though. I thought it stayed in the Wii all the way up until they released the Wii Mini. It would make no sense for them to kill the GameCube compatibility. If all the Wii essentially was an overclocked GameCube. Well, no, Okay, I remember this now. There was a redesigned Wii that came out in 2011 that was meant to be laid vertically, no, horizontally instead of vertically, that got rid of the GameCube ports, and as a result, it got rid of GameCube compatibility. And then there was also the Wii Mini. Okay, yeah, I remember that happening now. You know, it's interesting though, after the Wii released, how it was like a full 5 years behind its competitors on terms of internal specifications. But it still wound up being one of the most popular consoles of that generation. And you know, that led to a lot of Nintendo fans and Nintendo themselves to go, well, you see, for our consoles, for Nintendo consoles, it's not about specs, it's about the games. And it's like, they actually said, I think the president of Nintendo of America actually said that after the failure of the Wii U, where they basically said the exact same thing, and it's like, well, this time that didn't work. And it's always kind of annoying because I agree it's not about specs, it's about games, but if it was only about games, first of all, newer games require newer specs a lot of the time, and it also annoys me when people say graphics don't matter in video games, because I'm like, dude, if graphics didn't matter, we would literally still be gaming on Windows 98 era gaming PCs. Like, I'm just saying. Yeah, the Wii Mini was, I don't know why, but so at the very end of the Wii's life cycle, literally around the time they released the Wii U, they released the Wii Mini. And I don't get the point of that. But they're not the only company that did that. Like, Microsoft released a brand new version of the Xbox 360 in 2013 when the Xbox One was coming out, which makes no sense. And it's funny, these late generation consoles were oftentimes inferior to the ones they replaced as well. Like, I think the Xbox, let's see, there was the Xbox One E. Well, no, the Xbox 360E, where apparently had like less USB ports, and it dropped several legacy ports basically. And I don't know, like what was the point? And especially like the Wii Mini, how it was smaller, it had no internet connection, which in 2012 was basically unacceptable. And it didn't even release Nintendo of America in North America until literally a year after the Wii U was released, and it's like, who would buy that? And then I'm trying to remember if there was a version of the PS3 that was released at the very end of its life cycle. Yeah, apparently there was and I do seem to remember this, there was the PlayStation 3 Super Slim, which was released in 2012 but it's like, why release a brand new version of this console? And I think the Super Slim also got worse reviews than the regular Slim. But why release an inferior version of the consoles like so late in the lifespan of the console? That just doesn't make sense. Well, you see, the problem with the Wii U, one of its main problems, first of all, the entire like tablet controller thing was really stupid, but that's besides the point. The Wii U's biggest problem was people, including myself, genuinely genuinely thought it was actually like an add-on to the regular Wii. And so when I discovered that the Wii U was like an entirely different console, I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Because I heard about the Wii U and I didn't look into it too much further, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like an upgraded version of the Wii. Well, I already have a Wii. And then my sister got the Wii U, and it's like, oh, this is a entirely different console. It's cool, it actually does HD now. It's actually HD compatible, but otherwise it's like, I saw like the tablet controller, and my reaction was like, really? People want this? This was around the same time that like Windows 8 released, and a lot of like tech journalists and stuff like that were claiming that touch screens were the future, and I'm like, people want a tablet game controller. So it had both a marketing problem and I think, a lack of actual, good new features. So here is so speaking of the Wii U, here is my Wii U. My Wii U that I also don't use. It's a little heavier than I expected, but the Wii U, with Nintendo's super proprietary ports, but at least this time they included an HDMI port, and they also have USB ports, so they actually did do something standard, and they even have front-facing USB ports. So they did do one thing right, and of course you also had your stupid gamepad tablet controller that used not capacitive touch, I believe, but whatever. With your also proprietary connector, at least they had a headphone jack. And something, this was actually pretty cool because like you could take your gamepad to a completely different room and you can actually play video games from your Wii U in a different room, so it wasn't like this was entirely useless. I do think it's kind of funny though how, first of all, if you took this to a different room it would be strange, but I find it funny how like the entire Nintendo Switch is smaller than just the gamepad for the Wii U. I always found that interesting. And it's not a horrible gamepad controller, even though it's very bulky. I mean, it even had things like a camera built in. It was a pretty cool piece of tech, but it wasn't as, wow, this is cool, as the Wii controls were on the Wii. Let's just put it that way. I think there's even infrared here. Um, you saw one. Yeah, the second screen on the Wii U gamepad, Splatoon and Watch Dogs. Oh yeah, this was pretty cool with Splatoon. Yeah, you can use a normal Wii controller. I own one, and I've played Wii games on my Wii U. I'm trying to remember. I think I bought the 2016 remaster of Twilight Princess, which honestly, I liked Twilight Princess, but that was kind of a disappointing remaster because the graphics in Twilight Princess really have not held up well at all. It's funny. The Wind Waker, that got a lot of crap for how they decided to go with cartoony graphics, but those graphics have aged very, very well to the point where they still look good even today. But it's because they went with a cartoony look. But the realistic look of Twilight Princess has aged absolutely horribly because video game realistic graphics have came a long way since 2006. But anyways, that's my Wii U. And I have a kind of heavy Xbox One S. You know what's funny about the original Xbox One? It was quite a bit bigger than this, but it still had an external power brick, I believe. It didn't even have an integrated power supply. While the One S and even the One X, which I think the One X might actually be smaller than this, if I remember correctly, they both just had built-in power supplies, and they no longer looked like VCRs. So yeah, this is my One S. It's nothing special, I guess, nowadays, but it's still a pretty nice device. It can even output 4K video, which is cool. It can't do 4K gaming, but at least it can output 4K video. And then, last but not least, and I think this is my favorite one out of all my old consoles, is my heavy, bulky launch day PlayStation 3. And I like this because it's a genuinely cool piece of technology, especially for 2006. First of all, it had a built-in Blu-ray player, which was not a thing really in 2006. And you know what's funny is after they discounted the price of this, so many people wound up buying PlayStation 3s because it was the cheapest Blu-ray player on the market. It's like, so not only was this cheaper than every other Blu-ray player, it's like you had a Blu-ray player and you also had a game console. Well, other Blu-ray players were just Blu-ray players. So like, why not buy a PlayStation 3? But this was very expensive when it launched, and it came with the benefits, since it's a launch model, that it can actually play PlayStation 2 games, and this can play PlayStation 1 games. So it's like, there's pretty much nothing but benefits to the launch model of the PlayStation 3, and the front is really cool because you had SD card, you had CF cards, and you had this third one that I have no idea what it is. It says like STL Pro on it, which is another kind of memory card, and it had 4 front-facing USB ports. Now, I will say this is not a quiet console, but it's still a very cool console. And, you know, obviously the Blu-ray drive could also, you know, like read DVDs and stuff like that. And it's really like a forward-thinking console too. You know, it had built-in Wi-Fi, it had Bluetooth built in. And if we go to the back, it you know, had its power supply built in, but it also had it had an HDMI out port, which was not super common yet. It had a LAN port. It had digital optical audio out and another AV multi-out port. But it was a very, for the time, like a very forward-facing, powerful, like feature-rich console. And especially with the Cell processor, which was supposed to be a very capable, powerful processor that was not utilized very heavily in the earlier years because developers didn't know how to develop for it or something like that. But I genuinely think, as far as cool consoles go, this was one of the coolest ones to ever have been released. Period. And it's probably my favorite one out of all my old game consoles. This was not cheap. It was like $300, but it's cost less than it did in 2006, and it's like a cool like collector's item. Also, now I'm definitely thinking I want a PSP. But I remember, like, this thing, people would buy this. The PS3 had a scalper problem, like the PS5 did, where people would buy, you know, as many PS3s as they could, and then put them for sale on eBay, and these things would sell up for $9,000 on eBay. So, like, the scalper problem of 2020 also existed in 2006. Yeah, half the people with an Xbox One S bought it just to use as a 4K Blu-ray streaming player. Yeah, that's true as well. Maybe I'll set this console back up. It's still a pretty cool piece of tech. Obviously, you know, nowadays it hasn't aged. It's kind of bulky. Well, the PlayStation 5, though, is also very big. Kind of hoping I don't accidentally damage this somehow. Anyways. So the only other console that I actually own is the version of the PlayStation 4 that came out in 2016. I forget what it's called. It might be the PS4 Slim. Yeah, it's the PS4 Slim. Do they still sell that? Well, then again, I shouldn't be that surprised. They literally made the PS2 up until 2013. Yeah. But yeah, that's all the game consoles that I own. I don't own a modern one. And I don't really own a modern computer either. So, at least as far as gaming goes. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I do. My Steam Deck. Which I guess has no charge on it. Come on. Yeah, I guess I gotta charge it. And I don't have a USB-C charging. Yes, I do. There we go. Let's try and charge that up. And you know, so I bought an Oculus Quest here, but I still have not. I set it up and then I haven't played any games on it yet. An Oculus Quest 2, I should say. I'll probably do that tomorrow, maybe. Let's see, does this even have any charge on it? Here's what it looks like if I'm wearing it. Man, is this tight. I mean, technically it fits, it's just really, really tight. I'm pressing a button here, and it's not turning on, so I guess it's out of charge. And this also charges via USB-C. So let's plug a charger in. But their controllers still use AA batteries or maybe AAA. Then I got cell phones, obviously. This is a Pixel 6. Then I got 3 older phones back there. Still have my 2018 iPad Air. That probably also is out of... Oh, it's not out of charge. Unusual. I mean, it's very low on charge. Oh, come on. I typed in my password wrong, and I guess I did it too many times. Because now this is unavailable for 15 minutes, which I hate. Thank you, Apple, for making your iPads so secure to the point you can't use them if you're the owner. So is this charging? Good, it's charging. My Microsoft. You know what's funny is, you know, I bought this mouse to use with a Mac, but it's a Microsoft mouse. I got other laptops and stuff, like a ThinkPad, and yeah, the 8700K, I don't know, I'm just not too impressed with it anymore. It's not a horrible CPU, I mean, at least it's modern enough to run Windows 11. And then the main laptop that I use, because I don't use my Mac as my main laptop, has a i5-8250U in it. Probably should use my Mac as my main laptop, because it's significantly more powerful. So, yeah, I guess all my stuff has to charge here. And you know, I own a ThinkPad as, like I mentioned. In fact, I'll show that as well. So I own a broken Dell XPS, and it's broken because it has no battery and the hinge doesn't screw on properly. And then a Lenovo Yoga from 2018, a 2012 MacBook Air. And I have a 2020 M1 MacBook Air beneath all these phones. Hang on. Let's do some rearranging here. Actually, we'll keep it that way for now. But I think I already showed this off, but might as well do it again. I have a ThinkPad here that I bought because I wanted to create like an alternate retro ThinkPad, but I don't actually like this ThinkPad. And the reason I don't like it is, first of all, it has some like scruffs, some residue on it that I have not been able to remove. And then the other reason I don't like it is it has a 2nd gen Intel processor when this thing should have probably came with a 3rd gen one. And it has the newer Lenovo keyboard instead of the classic IBM like ThinkPad keyboard, where it actually has like chiclet keys here instead of whatever keys that they used before. And the trackpad's a little worn down too. But yeah, long story short, I don't actually like this ThinkPad that much as far as classic ThinkPads go. I'd probably be interested in getting like a T420 instead of a T430 like this if I'm going to be using 2nd gen Intel anyways. But then, if I do that, there's a good chance I'll be losing out on the USB 3 ports, which, unless, this does look like a card slot though, so maybe I could just put it in my 2nd gen Intel lap. My 2nd gen, not 2nd gen, but my T420, yeah, my T420. And you know the other things I don't like about old ThinkPads is they don't have USB-C, which obviously they don't because they came out before USB-C came out. But if I wanted to use this as like a modern computer, that actually is a detriment nowadays, that not have USB-C. I have to use their stupid proprietary charging port, and it has ports, all sorts of ports that I would never use nowadays. Like it has VGA, which I would not use. It has mini display port, which I would not use. It has, you know, an optical drive, which I would not use. It has a physical Wi-Fi switch, which is not a bad thing, but it has a ton of USB 2 ports, and it's, I don't know, it's just, as far as ThinkPads go, I wanted to build, I wanted to build like the ultimate retro ThinkPad, but it actually has become less appealing over the years. Like, it's something I always wanted to do, but I'm just not interested in it now because it's just lacking features that newer laptops have, and it has a lot of features that I don't need. I don't know. But if I turn it on, oh, you know, that's the other thing. This thing doesn't have a backlit keyboard, but there's a little light up here that you can shine onto the, I don't see the function key, that you can shine onto the keyboard, which is cool, but it's just not as effective as a backlight keyboard. So I actually have this dual booted. I have both Windows 10 and Windows 7 on here, and I think it makes more sense. Windows 10 is supported, but Windows 7 is the actual OS that would be more appropriate for this thing, probably. Now what I could do is I could set up my capture card again, and this would make videos where I go over old computers like this easier. But, do I even have a password? Yeah, I do. What even is my password? Okay, I guess that was it. I guess I don't have a activation key. Okay. Hang on. Okay, well, Windows 7. Yay. I mean, it's very appropriate for a laptop of this era. Hang on, we can make it a little more classic. Hang on. How about... Here we go. The classic theme of Windows 7. If you wanted to make this really retro, you'd use this small taskbar. You would not combine your buttons. There we go. And you could use Internet Explorer, of course. So yeah, Internet Explorer. Except no, I don't really prefer Windows Classic. Dude, I mean, like, look at all this stuff you can do in Windows 7 that you can't do in Windows 11. You can actually move your taskbar from two different parts of the screen. But anyways, let's shut this down. It didn't make the shutdown noise for some reason. You're back in the live stream. Welcome back. Gonna make Vista VM. Is that Microsoft Edge on XP? Yeah, it's Windows 7 with the classic theme, which, you know, makes it look like Windows 2000 basically. Yeah, this stream didn't really go how I expected it to go. But that's okay. Alright, so it is 3:51 a.m., so I'm going to go to bed. So I will see you all later. Links to my other social media are below in the description. There's a Linktree link. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, which I don't really use Twitch, Discord, etc. So if you'd like to follow me there, go ahead and do so. And yeah, I hope to see you guys later. Goodbye.